Check your phone.
Yep, it's on.
Is the audio on?
I don't.
See if we can hear it.
Say something.
Testing.
Yep.
Can you hear it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I guess we'll welcome everybody to the October 28th Town of Alexandria Board meeting. Could you please stand for the pledge? Where did our American flag go?
Right there.
Over here.
Over here, okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Masks are required for anybody moving throughout the town building due to social distancing regulations. We only can allow 22 people in this room. I think everybody will see that everybody's distanced at least 6 feet apart. And this is being streamed live. It's on now, right, Mike?
Yep.
And anybody who has any privilege of the floor, public concerns, can call or text the two numbers. Area code 315-778-5665 or 315-489-1613. First item is we're having a public hearing at 5 o'clock now for local law number 3, which is a local law overriding the tax levy limit established by the New York General Municipal Law 3-C. So we need to open that public hearing. Bob? So we need a motion and a second. We'll just open the public hearing. So that public hearing is open. Does anybody have anything to say? I'd like to say that we've worked on this budget quite a bit. We are very confident that we're not going to override the tax cap. This is a precautionary measure that I think we've done every year, and most other towns do every year, just in case. I'd like to hear what the other board members think as far as overriding the tax cap.
Just a little clarification exactly what the 2% is. It could be more than just raising taxes by greater than 2%. It's other things.
Yes.
That are greater than 2%.
Yep. So I think we're all in agreement that we definitely do not want to override the tax cap. And that I think the way the budget is figured right now, the way it stands, we're still in the preliminary stages, and we have another period of time, I want to say a week to 2 weeks, to change that preliminary budget. And we'll be having more meetings, as that our tax rate as it stands right now is going down about 6 cents. So, anybody have any comments on the tax cap? Override the public hearing. So we need I'll read this local law, Bob, or you?
I'm going to read it. Are you going to close the public hearing? Are you closing the public hearing now?
Yep.
Then declare it closed.
So, close the public hearing if nobody has any comments. Okay. The local law is overriding the tax limits established by New York General Municipal Law. Whereas the town board of the town of Alexandria desires to override the limit of the amount of real property taxes that may be levied by the town of Alexandria pursuant to the General Municipal Law 3-C. And to allow the town of Alexandria to adopt a budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by General Municipal Law 3-C. Whereas such override is authorized by the provisions of Subdivision 5 of General Municipal Law 3-C, which expressly authorizes the town board to override the tax limit by adoption of a local law approved by a vote of at least 60% of the town board. And whereas a public hearing on that was held on October 28, 2020 at 5 p.m. in the town of Alexandria. Being enacted that the town board of the town of Alexandria, New York as follows. Tax levy limit override. The town board of the town of Alexandria, County of Jefferson, is hereby authorized to adopt a budget for the fiscal year 2021 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law 3-C. In any clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or the application thereof to any person, individual, firm or corporation or circumstance shall be adjudicated by any court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid or unconstitutional. Such order of judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder thereof, but shall be confined in its operation to the clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or in its application to the person, individual, firm, or corporation, or circumstance directly involved in this controversy in which such judgment or order shall be rendered. The local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So we need a motion and then a roll call vote.
I'll make that motion.
Mike Fayette will make the motion, need a second. Second by John Stein.
So this was already introduced at an earlier meeting.
Right, but are they passing it or are they not passing it? I guess I'm a little confused. I thought he said they weren't passing it.
I don't think I understood that. They introduced it at the second, now they held the public hearing.
No, I understand.
Yeah, it's time for the vote, I'm sorry.
So you are passing the override of the tax cap?
We have a motion and a second to pass this local law number 3.
Okay, for some reason I thought when you were speaking, when you were talking during the public hearing, I thought you had stated that you were not, that the board was not going to pass it.
Well, I spoke earlier and just said that we won't, this is a precautionary measure that is done by most all boards. And,
Okay.
but we still need to do this as a precautionary measure. I mean, some of the things that we don't control are the fire departments and things like that.
Okay.
And if they come in at a certain level, even though we already have their figures, they could cause us to override the
Understood.
tax levy limit.
Okay.
Because it's not just the town budget that's figured into this, it's got some other factors. So our process here is to override the tax cap, yes.
Understood. Okay.
So we have a motion and a second, and we need a roll call vote.
Okay, so we already made the motion in the second in the public hearing,
Yes.
as before. Okay, Town Supervisor,
Yes.
Ron Thompson is absent. Board Member John Stein,
Yes.
Board Member Mike Fayette,
Yes.
Board Member Sandy Caputa.
No.
Okay, so local law number 3 has been passed. As I said, you know, we have no intent of overriding the tax cap. It's just a precautionary measure that we've been advised to do. So, that completes that. I'll call the town board meeting to order. A motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Sandy to approve the minutes. I need a second.
I'll second that.
Second by Mike. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passed. Motion to approve and pay the bills.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by John. Need a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mike Fayette. Any further discussion or any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Now we have privilege of the floor. Anybody have anything to say? Yep.
Yeah, Randy Truesdale. I just got a question about, I know with the COVID, there's been a lot of things you had to adjust, and then you went to the streaming, which has been really good. Are we ever gonna change the meetings back to 6 o'clock, so people at work can get here? Or is that, we're gonna stay at 5 o'clock?
Have we been at 5 o'clock for a while?
Yeah,
I think we have, right?
yeah,
And we have a public hearing that we did schedule for November 5th, and we purposely scheduled that at 6 o'clock for people
okay.
that are
Are
working.
these regular meetings gonna change back to 6? at some
We haven't
time?
talked about it, but we could discuss it. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I mean, that's what the routine was before, and I just think it's more compatible for people at work to get here.
Yep,
You know,
Yeah.
I think it's important that people get here if they want.
yep,
I'm okay with that.
okay. Any other public concerns?
Can I? Alright. I don't usually do this, but there's some things that that I've seen lately that really bother me. And so I'm gonna come out here, because I'm not doing this as a board member, but as a citizen. For the last several months, I have disconnected from social media, because I do not like the bantering back and forth. But something was handed to me yesterday, and as a taxpayer, I hope I know the answer, but I feel it necessary to confront Mr. Sweet, or Supervisor Sweet. This post was on the real truth about the real truth in the town of Alexandria, and it was from Dan Peterson, and it said, he was talking about the harshness of undoubtable truth. Brent Sweet was found messing around in the town vault after hours by the town clerk. She is the only person who is supposed to have access to the vault and records for obvious reasons. He locked her in the room and threatened her if she told anyone. Ask her if you doubt. She will tell you. Well, Mr. Supervisor, this is a direct accusation against you, so I'm asking you, I'm sure you've been in the vault. You're our supervisor and the head of the town. But have you at any times after hours when you were not supposed to be in there ever entered yourself in there?
No, I haven't, and I don't have access to the vault. I don't have the combination. I believe that Jesse is the only person that has the combination of the vault. There might have been a deputy clerk in the past that had the combination, but I don't think there's any other town employee that has the combination of the vault. And to answer your question, no, I have not been in the vault after hours.
Thank you. Jesse, I asked you this yesterday. He wasn't there when I asked, but is this true? Have you ever caught him in the vault after hours when he wasn't supposed to be there?
No.
Okay. That makes me feel much better. Also, yesterday, I had asked if anyone seen my letter in the TI Sun this week. Obviously, I'm opposed to the tax cap. I had asked that Bill Dagenau meet with us to give us some guidance on some budgeting things, because I am not a pro by any means at this budget yet. So there was a meeting yesterday, and before I even left the building, my daughter had sent me a picture of myself in the meeting that someone had put online saying that we were holding an illegal meeting. I would like to read what the New York State open meeting law says. It says, meetings of a committee or some committee that consists solely of board members that discuss or conduct public business are subject to the open meeting law. In contrast, meetings of a board advisory committees that do not exist exclusively for board members are purely advisory in nature, make recommendations to the board, and do not perform governmental functions are not subject to the open meeting laws. In my opinion, that's what we had yesterday. We had a subject matter expert coming in, giving us advice. If anybody had wanted to be there, they could have. The supervisor had called the TI Sun and let them know we were having it. Audit committees perform government functions, and therefore their meetings are subject to the open meeting laws. I do not feel that we did anything wrong yesterday. We were not making any motions. We are trying to get educated. I am trying to get educated so that we can make the correct choices concerning the budget and finances of this town. For the record, we've started back. Last week was our first one. Mike and I meet every Wednesday, just about. I won't be here this next Wednesday because I'll be out of town, but at 9 o'clock on budget and sewer, trying to get us in the right direction. Anybody ever wants to join us, you're more than welcome. That's all.
That was the meeting that you had today that...
Today we had one, yes,
Yeah,
and
we
someone
got-
put it on Facebook today that we were meeting illegally again.
And who was at the meeting today?
Mike, I, Jamie Papin, and what's that other guy's name?
Dale Ramo.
Dale Ramo.
Okay. Any other public concerns?
I would like to have a little conversation here. And it involves social media again, which is, first thing, there's way too much of that. And this is just me, my observation anyway. I've lived here for over 30 years, which is nothing compared to most of you who lived here much longer than that. I've witnessed lifelong friendships just completely shredded over the most ridiculously stupid stuff. I mean, you can have a difference of opinion, but it shouldn't lead to that, and that is what is happening, and I just need to get on my soapbox a little bit on that. The other one that, I have a couple different things here, is, also on social media, making a big issue about our supervisor's salary doubling and then doubling again. Okay. This is exactly what has occurred here since the year 2003. Now, I'll focus most on our current supervisor. His first year in office, he made $12,000. To bring that into perspective, the guy he replaced made $51,516, okay? The second year, okay, he doubled it. He went from $12,000 to $23,500. Still half of what his predecessor was. Third year, and current year, is $42,317, which is still less than the guy he replaced. If you take those 3 years, add them together, and divide it by 3, and get an average, he averaged $25,939. If you take the 3 years prior to him being in office, and add them together, and divide by 3, it was $53,143. So just do the math game here. He makes half of what his predecessor makes. So when all this social media is his salary doubled, that's reality. You can get online, foil it, I'll give this to you. That's exactly what the deal is on that.
But isn't that what he ran on when he first got his position, that he would take a lesser salary?
He is. I just showed you. He's making half his predecessor's money.
After that, it doubled. It was 100%. So why do you feel in a part-time position? Because it's not a full-time position, actually.
Brent, okay, thank you. How many hours would you say you put in a typical week?
But that's his choice.
No, I'm just asking.
That's his choice to put in those hours. It's still.
The job is turned, well, okay, all right.
Then make it a full-time position.
Okay, so you're saying that Dale Honeyman, I'll put a name to this, made $51,516 as a part-time job?
Well, that's
I haven't got a problem with that.
That's what the board paid him when he was hired
So
for
that's
that
a
position.
part-time job, you're saying $50,000 is a part-time job? No.
That's
So
not right for him to make that much either.
then why focus on that? He's not even making that. I mean, I could take one, and then the next day make it 2, and that's doubling it, but that's still a tiny number.
But it's still been double.
Okay.
2 years in a row. 100%. That's still double.
Wow. Okay, next subject.
I would like to say something in reference to, what Sandy had mentioned, standing up there, that, Dan Peterson had stated. This wasn't just recently. I'm assuming that this letter just came out for some reason, but I'm kind of going on the assumption that Dan Peterson wrote this. The reason why he wrote it was because of several years ago. This isn't just something that just happened when it comes to that. As far as the inside of the vault, that is not the way that it happened, if this is what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is that, Brent, just so that we're clear on this, yesterday when you had asked me that question about being in the vault, I was under the understanding that it was in regards to Tracy, when we had spoken yesterday, Tracy, but it wasn't. I went back in my notes and I looked last night. This is what it's in regards to. When Greg Wills worked on the board, or was a board member, there had been many complaints about him doing the, tarring of the town's property. And his vehicles were over at Big M. And there had been a phone call to me, letting me know that this was going on, and they wanted to know the reason why a board member was tarring one of the town properties. I then brought it to the attention of the supervisor, and the supervisor then was Dale Honeyman. Brent Sweet was on the board. He wasn't the supervisor, he was on the board. I went to him, to Dale. Dale then blew it up, went to Greg, and I also went to Greg, and it blew up into this big ordeal where the board at that point were very angry at me because it became very known to Dan that this has happened. During an occasion, during the afternoon, Summer Beggs was my deputy clerk at that time. Brent came into my office, asked me if he could speak to me privately. We went into the back room where the bookkeeper is now, and he was very angry at me. And I don't know, Brent, if you remember this, but I do,
No.
and I wrote all of it down. Very angry at me. He basically told me that, you know, you need to stop this. You need to stop with doing this to Greg. You need to stop telling the board these things, or to people, et cetera, et cetera. And primarily, at the time, we were also going through a issue where people were coming at nighttime, coming up to my door because there was no lights in the back at all. And I have requested to the board several times for them to have lights out there, and that never happened until certain things became apparent. And there were people coming in the dark, staying out there, and the only reason why I would even know that they were back there, I mean, I wouldn't leave here until almost 11 o'clock at night. Brent at one time, during that confrontation, said to me, "We know when you leave here, and we know when you come here." And I took that as a threat. And I walked out the door, upset, angry, crying, and didn't come back into this office until I blew my steam outside.
Do you know the date that happened?
I have it at home, I can give it to you. After that, I addressed, which was not, I don't believe was this Attorney Sly at the time. I addressed that subject, I believe, with the previous attorney, and it was nothing ever came of that. And I believe that is the scenario of what you're talking about.
Thank you, Jesse.
Brent, what she just described, is that pretty much what occurred?
No, I don't remember that at all. I mean, I think,
I was hoping you would say
everybody
yes,
here-
and I was hoping for an apology as well, really.
well, I mean, obviously I apologize if she felt I was angry. I don't, you know, like I said, I don't really remember that at all. That's why I was curious as to how many years ago we're talking about.
Well, this was when you were, I mean, I'm talking probably at least 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Because yesterday when we talked about it, you said it, you thought it was during the Tracy McIntosh
Right, but
situation.
I went back and looked looked at it, and I had everything right there, because I have written everything down.
Yeah.
I mean, this, again, as attorney could probably tell you, I have written several asking for an investigation on harassment. True or false?
I mean, I've done the same, Jesse, and I think Attorney Sly has a workplace violence paper with him tonight that we're not gonna bring out, but was the same situation that happened between you and I in that front office when you screamed and yelled at me and used some language.
I remember,
That was, and Summer was sitting right there, and so were a lot of other people.
yeah.
So, and I actually filed a workplace violence complaint at that point.
Yeah, well,
And
I'm gonna be honest with you, nothing has ever happened with them.
Yeah, so I just, as Mike said, and that it doesn't take him telling me this, I apologize if I offended you, or I was angry, or I scared you, or whatever. I really don't remember doing it. It's 5 years ago. Any other public comments?
Yeah, okay, one more, I'm gonna keep doing my thing. This was in my mailbox this morning. What most people don't realize is that I have a camera in front of my house, so I know who put this in my mailbox. I'm not gonna do anything about it, but this is the second time you've done it. Got you on camera, please stop doing it, it's a federal offense. Only mail, actual mail from a mail carrier can go in the mailbox. Okay? I think that's, hopefully will sink in. Thank you.
I think we all need to say a little bit about the board. We had a discussion about this in the last few days, and it is coming out that the board members are having things done at their houses, vandalism things. John's had things done at his house. Sandy or Sandy's daughter had things done. I've definitely had things done. I've got pictures of the things that were done. I don't know if, Mike, you've had anything done?
Other than things like that, no.
We have pictures of the things that are being done, and it's, you know, it's a very tense time, obviously, for all of us, so I just want to be on record as saying that that's going on, and I didn't realize that I had my problem that's happened 4 times to me in the last month, and I didn't go to anybody or anything like that, but came out at a discussion 2 days ago that other board members are having the same things happen, so this is pretty serious deal, obviously, and that's all I have to say. Any other public comments?
I think it'd be nice if everybody grew up a little bit.
Is there enough cameras on the vault?
I'm sorry.
Is there enough cameras on the vault for the security of the?
The vault.
The vault?
Yes, there is one directly shining.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So if we had dates and times of,
And like the back door or whatever she was talking about, not having light, is there a security camera there or whatever? Is there enough security footage to back up people or for more security when people wanna feel safe or?
I can't say about the back, cause I don't normally look at that one, but I know there's a light pole right outside the middle of the building, cause there was something on the pole the other day, and I actually stepped into the woods and looked at it, so I know there is a light out here. As far as the very back, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it is something that should be looked into.
Nobody else has anything else to say, we'll proceed. Okay. Item number 1. This is really just an announcement, public hearing on November 5th at 6 p.m. for the 2021 town budget, including the Redwood Water District, the Route 12 Water District, the Otter Street Water District, the Carnegie Bay Water District, and the Edgewood Water District, along with the Redwood Sewer District and the Route 12 Sewer District. So that public hearing is at 6 o'clock on Thursday, November 5th, 2021. If we can't answer all the questions that are asked at that meeting, one of our accountants is not going to be able to be here that night. We do have the ability to adjourn our meeting until November 20th by the day. So when we get his schedule of when he can be here, we can adjourn it if people have questions that we can't answer, just to give you a heads up on that process.
So you're not just,
Well, I was gonna-
you don't just adjourn the meeting, you have to adjourn the public hearing. You have to be very clear about that.
No, that's not the way I understood it. I thought public hearing is just that. We're not gonna answer their questions. You guys can give us all your concerns, right?
No, when it comes to the annual budget, persons are entitled to answers to their questions.
Okay.
Any other public hearing, they are not. But when it comes to the annual budget and you have a line item, they're entitled to ask a question and they're entitled to get an answer. It's the only public hearing in which they're entitled to an answer.
Okay. I was misinformed.
And the town has never included the water districts and the sewer districts before in the public hearing for the budget. And thanks to the amount of work that Mike Fayette's been doing on these ordinances and Sandy, all of our ordinances say in them that once a year there needs to be a public hearing on that district. So we are having public hearings on every water district and every sewer district also. That's the first time this town's ever done that, so.
Ren, Will the preliminary budget be available, or when will the preliminary budget be available, before that meeting?
I mean, Nicole's gonna be here, and, our other accountant isn't gonna be able to be here that night.
When is it actually available to the public to
So
look
it
at?
won't be
Yes.
available until the meeting?
It should be available before the public hearing.
Isn't it available now? Cause we had to present it to the town clerk by October.
It was put into the mail, it was put in the paper, as of today.
And we'll put it on our website as
Okay.
preliminary. I'll do that tomorrow.
But yes, you can come in anytime, pick it up, or if you want a copy after this, I can certainly give it to you.
Yep,
Great, thank you.
okay. Next is Hearts for Youth presentation.
Hi, hopefully a much lighter note for everyone. I'll give you those things. Of course, we have a little bit of a glitch, and you can't use an Apple computer with an HDMI, and that's what I have. So I'm just gonna put this on, and obviously it's real small, but you will see, hopefully it'll turn, all the different activities that Hearts for Youth has been doing. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Denise Haddock. I'm the director of Hearts for Youth. Just recently joined the school system too. Because I love kids. I went out of retirement to really go crazy. But I'm here tonight just to ask you, I know times are difficult now, but if you will really think about when you're doing your budget and where your money is going, if you look over the years, what you've given to Hearts for Youth in the years past, I know it was way before me, there was a good salary, if you want to do salaries, that went, or a good portion of money that went to Hearts for Youth. And then there was a separation and things have changed, which it doesn't matter. What matters is what's happening right now. What I've passed out, and there's more copies if anyone would like one, I have what we've done for programs starting in January. This was our winter programs that we did. Of course, this was our spring program, and then COVID hit, so none of this happened. However, I will tell you, we did not stop. On here, you will see every week we still continue to do story times, we still did Legos, it was all done virtually, but we still reached our children. This is our summer program. We did not stop because of COVID. We followed regulations, we did kayaking, we did fishing, pickleball. I dressed up in a tea costume from my home and sat and had tea parties with a bunch of kids. Did anyone see it? Probably not, only the other parents, because it wasn't big groups. We weren't allowed to have groups, but we still did activities. Kayaking, we did fine arts classes, different art classes. If you were able to go in Big M, we use Big M, we call it the atrium of Big M. We had an art show. We had the different acrylic paintings they did and drawings that children did. We kept going. We are now in the process of finally getting a building. Right now, I beg, borrow, and steal wherever I can find a place. Right now, our kids are doing our story time outside at Indian River Lakes Conservancy. They have a beautiful little, I don't even know what you call that building. I call it the owl building.
Big gazebo.
A big gazebo. And that's where we're holding story time right now. The public library's not open. We can't go in there. The school is getting ready to let us come in to do a few of the programs, but it's been difficult. We do a lot of things outside, but we're making it happen. We're doing Zoom. We're doing, we've done breakout rooms on Zoom so that children can go in small groups and work with a art teacher to learn a special drawing technique. I have to leave here. I asked to be at the beginning of the agenda because we're headed to the village community room to do wreath making. Again, social distancing, each family has their own table. We've had to change what we do. Before, it was always focused just on the kids and small, you know, the groups of children with me as the adult or whatever the instructor was. Now we're doing more family-based things because I think parents are a little concerned just to leave their kids. Yeah, we have to wear masks, but we do what we do. So for this month, we've got wreath making. What else have we done? We did, a second fine art class. My children that were doing the drawing class, they loved it, so we ended up doing a second class where they added colored pencils, and I had an artist out of Rochester come and help volunteer her time to do the Zoom program. We also have wood burning coming up. We did the bucket from Route 37. Route 37 donated buckets to us. And I stole this idea from the New York State Fair that wasn't able to happen, but I gave each family a bucket of junk that signed up for it. They took the bucket of junk and they made a creation, and it is on that slideshow somewhere. The creations that they made, the parents, I went back by their houses, picked up the creations, and then put them in the paper, or put it at Route 37 Building Supply. But I'm just preaching to you that there's so many things. I know money's needed everywhere, but really think we do need, the children are here. We have to keep taking care of the children, and I obviously don't do it for the salary. If anyone knew what I made for Hearts for Youth, and then what the number of hours I put in, you wouldn't compare, so.
Under minimum.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but that's not the point. I do it because I care and I love it. I'm staying on with Hearts for Youth. I took this school job, but I'm staying on for Hearts for Youth because I love it. I care about the kids. I see the need for it. There are so many children that just need someone to do something with. And whether it's reading a book with them or playing Legos, and if you could see this up close, there's pictures of me where I'm playing Legos at my house, and there's another child on the other side playing Legos at their house on their TV. That's what we had to do because of COVID.
We did baking too.
And we've done baking. That was in the winter time. We haven't been able to do that now, but we just have an idea. We will be doing in January a cooking class that will be virtual. So I did a couple on Facebook Live, but the kids will get supplies, and so we do have some new ideas. But just think about us, and we do a lot. We do, as of today, since January, Shooky Millet was always the one that would ask me this whenever he saw me. How many children have you seen so far?
Unduplicated.
Unduplicated, 263. This was, remember, COVID started March 17th. So, we've done very well. We've partnered with Indian River Lakes Conservancy, did summer camp bags for kids. We stay very active. And I think the board members that help, the other, the staff that I have, Samantha Calhoun just joined us. She's doing some of the daytime programs because now I'm at school. And Carrie Weldon, the three of us, we do it because we care. And we just hope everybody else will just give a little bit and care. We're doing a big capital campaign. We hope to have a building by next spring, and we'd like the town's support and help us out.
We'd like to call it a campus versus just a Hearts for Youth because we're behind the library and the school, and we'll involve all three.
And what we're finding is, as I've been doing the programs, it's not so much, it's great for me as the educator teaching the children. It's amazing. If you get bored at this meeting or you want to leave, come and see what we're doing at the community center. The wreath making. I have 3 generations making a wreath. Grandma, and it's just wonderful. And that's what I want to see in our Hearts for Youth building, is it will be a community place where everyone can come and do whatever activities they want, but working together. Because I might not know how to do barn quilts, but Mr. Huron taught me by just watching on Facebook. I thought what he did, so then I did it. He, this spring, will be teaching a barn quilting class, we hope, if we get enough funding. But, again, it's just working together, and all it takes is, if you've got a skill and you want to help us, come and join us, or if you have some money that you could spare, we would really appreciate, Hearts for Youth would appreciate helping us out, because we are servicing a lot of children. This is probably a very small number of children at this time I'm reporting, but again, it's unduplicated, And with COVID, we didn't do anything.
We have restrictions too.
Yeah, it was very difficult to do things, so. But thank you for your time and really think about it and.
Thank you for everything you do, and I just wanna say that there was a period of time that Hearts for Youth was the town-supported organization. Then that stopped, and that stopped for I don't know how many years. And the town created their own youth group, of which Stacy's been very, very involved in and a huge part of for our town youth group. And then Denise and Suzanne came to me a few years ago, I think it was my first year as supervisor, and asked if the town would possibly step back into supporting the program. And we've stepped back into that, and the town board thinks it's great, and we obviously plan to continue to support that group. And if we can support you more or in a bigger way, then we're very willing to try to do whatever we can do.
I mean, it would be great, and just, yeah, I mean, whether it's sports, arts, whatever, as long as you are really thinking about the children, and we need to work together, and I think that's the big thing, and difference in opinions need to, when it comes to the kids.
I just kinda wanted to mirror a little bit of what you said, Brent. I think Hearts for Youth has done a fantastic job, especially during COVID. I read all the articles in the paper, and I see all the virtual activities that you all have been doing. And, I just wanna commend you and applaud you, because I think it's been, you've done a great job trying to keep things going, especially in these, circumstances.
And I think that's what I wanted to put out, is that we are still going, you know, it doesn't, COVID's not gonna take us down, and just like the kids, it was very difficult, and I'm not a computer person, but boy, am I learning.
As you know, in the youth, the town's youth program, because we're sports-based, has basically been sidelined, but as we're coming into the winter season, which would typically be a fall basketball, then going into winter basketball, Brent, I don't know if there's something, you know, if we can partner more together, not just from a budgetary or monetary point of view, but even from an activity point of view, can we, you know, try to do something to get the kids, you know, more involved, you know, to expand on some of the sports a little bit, and maybe we can do a virtual basketball, you know, at home, or Zoom basketball, or I don't know, but I mean, you know, maybe get together and partner a little bit more with, you know, Denise and Sue, and
I think that's a great idea.
You know, try to get some more activities.
And I mean, I will tell you, I'm shocked at school, what the different, phys ed teachers are doing, how they're making it work, and I see one of our new teachers, and he's out, and I'm thinking he's talking to himself, and he's doing his virtual gym lesson, you know, and so it is possible. I mean, it's not ideal, but you can do it.
Right.
So I think it's just important that we work together. I agree.
So what's the deal with this building at the hospital? Is that still on, or is that off?
That is off.
Okay.
We were given the recommendation after meeting with a lot of different groups that, we were excited, I was excited because it's a quick fix, and oh my gosh, there's a building, and I want a place for the kids, I don't care. But for safety reasons and for the cost, we, have been told that we can get something for less money, not as big, but we don't need it that big. And something big you've gotta heat and take care of, so smaller, we're gonna go smaller and do new. Hopefully in the spring.
And we'll have like a reading room, a sewing room, then a community room, a much bigger room, and an office for
Sensory room for the children. We have a lot of great ideas.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, and I'm gonna go to wreath making if anyone wants to join me.
Okay, number 3 is a variance permit fee refund. This was brought to me by Norris, and there was some people that had applied for a variance, and they paid the fee, which was $220 for the variance. There was no mailer sent out, there was no meeting, there was nothing actually done to proceed with the variance, and they got informed that the financing didn't come through, and so they had to completely stop the project. So they, are asking for a refund for the $220. And I talked to Norris about this, and I said, what did you guys have to do? Was there anything that, he said, the only thing that was done was the $220 was paid, and that the paper, they filled out the paperwork and handed it in, and shortly thereafter, they had the news that they couldn't do it, so they're asking for a refund.
A couple questions. Have we ever given a refund before?
Not since I've been here, but
Okay, well, I guess the point I'm driving at is, this sounds like something doesn't happen very often. You know, usually if they get a variance, they actually do the project,
yeah.
so.
Anybody hear of us ever doing it before? A refund?
Probably never had the reason to. Usually the deals go through.
Yeah.
So I think that,
Yep,
you know,
yeah.
they paid for something they're not getting, so they shouldn't have to pay.
And then the biggest thing is the town didn't incur any expenses. That's the part that I wanted to make sure that was, you know, the facts from Norris. So I guess I'll need a motion to issue a refund.
I'll make that move.
Motion by John, second.
I'll second it.
Second by Mike. Discussion?
Just, should we have the name of the person that the refund is going to?
I'm sorry?
Who is it?
The name of the person, so it's,
Chelsea Simpson.
okay. So that, I just want that in the motion, so
Yep.
if a check gets written to somebody, they understand what it's for.
Okay, all those in favor of refunding Chelsea Simpson her $220, permit fee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Bonnie Castle Stables acquisition update. I know that the owner has been there for 2 weeks working on the list of environmental issues that were provided by the engineer who did the inspection. I had a conversation with him earlier this week, and he hopes to be no more than another 2 weeks to complete the remediation of the issues that were in the report. So, that's kind of where we stand. We'll wait till he tells us that he has completed what he's doing. And then my thoughts are, depending on what everybody else thinks, I think we need to have somebody have the same person who did the initial report, go in there and do a walkthrough, which I've talked to him, he'd be very willing to do it, and it wouldn't be anywhere near the initial report that he did, to say, you know, what's what. I think that's something that we'll all have to talk about a little bit. I'm not looking to make a decision at tonight's meeting about that, and we'll want to talk with our attorney about it.
At the last board meeting, wasn't it discussed that there was about a $30,000 cleanup bill? Is now the owner doing it himself? Is that the idea? Or what's he doing?
I think what's going on is he's hired the people and he's doing it himself, and with the people he's hired, and he's not looking for us to pay the bill.
Well, at the last board meeting, you had authorized us to go back to his attorney and offer the cost of remediation up front, and then to be deducted from the purchase price. We did that. The attorney thought that was amenable to the owner, but this is the first that I've heard that he was doing it himself.
I'd say we should correspond with the attorney again and the owner and figure out what's what and what the process is here.
Yeah, I know one of the thoughts was perhaps he didn't have the money to do the work, and if we up-fronted it, we could get it done,
Yep.
and subtract that from the purchase price and get the thing closed. I mean,
Yep.
the public voted on it a year ago.
I mean, I pretty much have told him that the town would not complete the sale unless everything in that report was taken care of. And we have to have that proven to us, or documented to us,
Okay.
okay? Weed harvester boat is being delivered. We got a call 2 days ago, the boat is finished. Just so everybody knows, this boat is $89,000 plus I think about $15,000 worth of options. And this boat, will be the property of the town, and it will go to Mud Lake and Goose Bay first, because that's the grant that we applied for, and then can do other areas of the township. I've had a tremendous amount of phone calls from property owners in other bays along the river that would like to get on the schedule for the weed harvester. We have to do the areas that were in our grant application first. The boat will be here in a week. I think we'll get the newspaper and some people there to write an article and take some pictures. And there's gonna be some training that was gonna take place with the boat, and that training's not gonna take place till spring. So we look to put it in action next spring. And it's, as I said, it's 100% paid for by the grant. Just giving you an update on that.
Brent, I have a question. What, who will be running the weed harvester? Will it be a town employee?
As it stands right now, there's a company in Governor that operates similar vessels, and they're gonna be the ones that we're gonna hire. This is again through the grant, not town taxpayer money, through the grant, hire to operate this, and then we can think about possibly training our own people to do it.
And what's the process like for someone in a, in a lake outside of town to be added to this long list?
I mean, I can only speak for myself, but this is a town boat, town money, town everything else, a town grant. I think it needs to be used in the town first. And
Well, this is town of Alexandria.
and we've got a long list.
Right, that's what I'm saying. What's the process of getting, say, Clear Lake is in the town of Alexandria, and getting that added to the list?
I'd say when we get this boat and we figure out what we're doing and how we're doing it, we'll have to start actually having a physical list of where we're gonna go. I know the job that is, that we have to do in Goose Bay and Mud Lake is pretty expensive, or extensive to do. The boat will do about 2 acres a day, so it's a slow process.
Okay, thank you.
So we're gonna, we hope to be working with Mike and his men, because the boat has a conveyor that we've had for 1.5 years, that also was bought by a grant that's at the transfer site, that will take the weeds that are harvested off the boat onto the conveyor and into the back of a town dump truck.
And then to the...
And then taken to some type of site that they let us take them to. So.
Can't be the landfill, can it? Can't be the landfill.
No, can't be the landfill.
That's, the issue is the
No, they
site.
want it to go to fields, and they want it to get cultivated into the fields. It's got a lot of nutrients in it, and there's people that'll want it, from everything we're told. So. Rink schedule update.
Okay, we got the rink report in, but the rink schedule is on the town website as it currently stands, which is all up in the air. All we need is, something bad happened with COVID, and it could just change everything. It's already changed a lot of things. At any rate, Rink Report is, I'm just reading here, the cleaning of the building and the ground started on October 5th. All the exterior and interior, all the non-working lights over the ice service have been replaced. The rink manager either met or spoke with area ice rink managers, Brian being one of them, and the coach of the TI hockey team, and the figure skaters, a meeting I participated in to work out a schedule. And it's, again, the school's COVID schedules are, the two schools involved have different, start, end times and their schedules. Everything is, quite a bit of work to fit the teams in. Okay, after speaking to our school's head custodian and the head of Clayton's Ice Arena, we purchased a Graco sanitizing gun, which, by the way, was used to take care of everything you're sitting in right now in this entire room. To use daily cleanings to help thoroughly disinfecting our arena. This device is very portable, can be used at any of the town's buildings to help with the disinfecting of high traffic areas, which is out, again, she was here actually today. The ringside servicing machine had to have one of its water tanks removed to send out for repair due to a hole that had formed in the bottom. It's expected to be back before we begin using the machine. Due to COVID-19, people were asked to enter the arena through the main door, done at the west end of the building, and then sign a contact tracing sheet. We'll have the skaters put their skates on. They can't use the locker rooms anymore. On the bleachers, it'll have a marked out where you can actually sit and where you can't sit. And we'll have the radiant heat on to help them, keep warm. We'll then have them take the shoes down to the end bleachers, so when they come off the ice, they will remove the skates and exit the alley next to the Zamboni room at the Baptist church end of the building. This will help reduce contact with the next group of skaters entering the building. And then our rink manager says, "I'm sorry I could not attend tonight's meeting, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me at area code 315-783-1117. Again, that's area code 315-783-1117. I also called two local electrical contractors for a price on installing two lights at the end of the building where the Baptist church is, to get better lighting, because now we're going to be using that entrance like it was never used before, so we want people to be safe. Davis Mechanical, this is good news, bad news, I guess. Davis Mechanical was scheduled to start the rink's compressor on Friday, October 23rd. I found problems with both the units. Davis Mechanical is the contractor we use to service the compressors and all the ice making equipment. In the spring of the year, when they shut down the rink, they come in, did all that work, and in the fall of the year, they come and they re-inspect it, make sure everything's okay before it gets turned back on. And they did both those things. They came to turn everything on this fall. They discovered a leak. That leak, when they kind of looked in a bit further, the brine pump actually had seized up. That is being worked on right now. I'm being told that there's a possibility, fingers crossed, that it'll be back in place tomorrow and they can start making ice. So there'll be a few days delay of the date that we had scheduled to have ice. Don't really know exactly what that is. It's dependent on the status of this pump. And again, that's going to set the actual start date. The rink manager has already reached out to the figure skaters, I believe, because they're the first ones that are going to be using the ice, and to let them know that.
We had, Davis Mechanical was here a month ago. They were here for 2 or 3 days. They serviced everything. They replaced a gasket. They did some things, and they checked the system out, and they said we were all ready to go.
Yep.
They came Friday, turned everything on, and found a problem. So we had kind of done our preventive maintenance and having them come and check it out, so that when we started it up on Friday, and we gave ourselves a few extra days by saying that it would open on Monday, but we've just used, this is Wednesday, we used Friday to Wednesday. We're not chilling yet. We hope to chill by the end of the day tomorrow.
Yes.
So, and it's gonna take us anywhere from 5 to 6 days or so. I'm not sure. Jerry knows that, as far as to make the ice.
And they're working till the weekend instead of during the week.
He's talking about a couple of days, he hopes, that we're gonna be delayed. Okay, grant application status for Redwood Mud Lake. You have that, Mike? Okay, so the town is applying for a grant for the Mud Lake Trail. We also were, told by the DEC that we had to do work on our shoreline at Mud Lake, where the shoreline is and where it goes onto people's properties and where it goes to Route 37 and to Nate's shop and under the road. So we have applied for a grant to rebuild that shoreline and to do some work on that trail and make that trail usable, walkable, handicap, all the above. Initially, this is the grant writer, progress report. Initially, I researched the internet for grant possibilities for this project. I selected the New York State Recreational Trails Program for the grant application. This program provides funding to develop, improve, and maintain recreational trails. After discussion with the board, it was decided to apply for a non-motorized trail project. I attended a webinar that covered the grant application criteria. Please note that the criteria require community support in the form of letters, endorsements, records of public meetings, etc. I will need the town board's assistance with these items. A grant application planned objectives and outline was developed. Demographics for Jefferson County, Town of Alexandria, Village of Redwood were gathered. I researched the recreational trails in this area as support for this application with a plan of connecting with the Redwood Hill Preserve. The grant application narrative has been drafted. Further work on the project was stalled until I met with Rob Camp, the engineer for the project. We met on October 6th to finalize the Mud Lake Trail project objectives. Rob is drawing up the engineering plans and will submit them to me when finished. I will then go forward with the application. I've spoken with Sunshine Perkins, Grant Administrator for New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historical Preservation. She said the opening for the grant application is still on hold and advised to keep checking with the Regional Economic Development Council for further information. She will also be available for any further guidance in completing the application. To date, I've spent a total of 9 3/4 hours in developing the grant application. My invoice is enclosed. Please let me know if you have any questions. And she's got her data and everything that she's done in this packet. We just want everybody to know that we are applying for a grant for over there in Redwood on this trail. We actually have added to the application a boat ramp to Mud Lake that is very badly needed. And as she said, Rob Camping, the engineer, is designing it and putting the plans together right now. So that's what she's waiting for. That's just an update on Mud Lake. Sewer billing for Teresa. We added some sewer billing issue with Teresa on a bunch of their accounts over there, and I believe this was discovered by Mike, that we were billing them incorrect amount, which was less than we should have been billing them. This is going back to 2009 that this was happening, and Mike in his work saw that there was a problem and started digging into it and found that we were under billing them by how much a quarter?
I don't know how much a quarter, but I think it's a total, a little over $6,000.
It's a total of $6,000 that we did underbill them over a period of years, starting in 2009. So we wrote them a letter. I talked to the town clerk over there. She has presented the letter to their board, and they want to sit down and talk about it. It's $6,152.31. So she sent me an email and said that she would be getting back to me to set up a meeting with the board to discuss this.
Not to get into any great depth, but there's other billing issues beyond that I'd like to discuss with them.
Yeah. With Teresa, yeah. Teresa, yeah.
That was for water, not sewer, correct?
Yes, the water, there's no sewer.
It's written down here.
Yep,
Yep.
just
On
water.
the agenda.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right.
It's water.
Yep.
Yep.
The next item, number 9, I think Jesse's put together the fuel pricing for putting it out for bid, and we'll put a notice in the TI Sun and on the town website, and any people that past vendors that we've used, we could send that information to, as we've done in the past. And we're gonna open up that bid at our next board meeting,
Yeah.
right? What's the date of that?
The end of November, whenever the fourth Wednesday is. Can't remember off the top of my head.
And we usually do that at 4 o'clock. We ask for the bids to be here by
We
4.
do them until 4 o'clock by
Yep.
the end of the business hours.
And that's in the advertisement, yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Butterfield Lake Association letter. Here somewhere. Dear Supervisor Feet, the Lake Association board members wish to thank you and the town for quick response and repair of the town dock and the highway department. Butterfield Lake. The summer of 2020 has been a challenge, and the dock repair added one additional issue. Having the dock repaired was fantastic. The town dock is an integral part for many along the lake, both town residents and those with cottages. Thanks for the excellent job. The purpose of this letter is to identify an issue with the town dock and overcrowding. The town policy is for no overnight docking, and that's not what has been happening. Presently, there are boats docked permanently for extended periods, creating a problem. Day use, people cannot dock, and handicap or emergency use may not be available. During peak summer weekends, this is the case for both loading and unloading boats and walking trips to Redwood. Specifically, there is no space to park a boat when going to town for church or ice cream. Are you aware many cottages are boat access only and dock space is necessary for intermittent use? Previously, at our request, the town had placed a sign at the dock ramp noting no overnight parking. It was quickly vandalized and from observations thrown into the lake. The dock usage has been and continues to be an issue. As a result, a serious issue arose with 2 emergencies at the lake, both within 1 day and from boat access cottages only. Emergency services were required for transport. Both emergencies required ambulance service at the dock, one from Indian River Ambulance Service and one from Alexandria Bay EMS. Both incidents were at night, requiring transportation patients, boats to waiting ambulances. One person was helicoptered to Syracuse with a serious head injury, and the second transported to Syracuse. Both times, arriving boats had very limited access to the dock space due to overnight parking. The first incident required carrying the patient from the boat over and through the gazebo and down the dock. The person was heavy, 360 pounds, and lifting him on a gurney was difficult for 3 EMS women. At this time, we request a meeting on site to review the issue and what may be available to keep the EMS and the handicap access available at the dock at all times. The Lake Board suggests a designated EMS dock space available for emergency use. It was suggested a 20-foot section of the east side of the dock be labeled for EMS use only. Also, placement of post signage for day use docking only. No overnight docking allowed. Be reinstalled and additionally stenciled on the dock, deck, or gazebo. Also noted was unauthorized swimming from the dock, placement of swim ladders and water skiing from the dock. Please review our request and schedule a site review at the lake. I may be reached at such and such a phone number. Thank you, Joseph Pasquini. We have gotten 2 new signs that say no overnight dockage. I believe Jamie installed those signs, one on a post as you enter the dock and the other one on the gazebo. We also are going to label the side of the dock, emergency use only. And as far as the pavilion is concerned, we don't know if that pavilion is going to be on the dock or not next year. It sounded like it's not going to be there. I talked to some residents down there, and they didn't have a problem if the pavilion wasn't there. And I'm just curious, Mike, how have you been able to do anything with those docks?
I'll just take this off for a second. The docks are completely out and up to the town barn.
They're out?
They're all out. The gazebo is down. Personally, being from Redwood, that gazebo was dedicated to Paul Amiot and people in Redwood. I'd really like to see the T part sturdy enough to put that gazebo back on. A lot of people in the Felder family and the Amiot family, they kind of care about that gazebo. And it was nice for the people to be able to sit under it. But that's all in your guys' hands. The docks are out. We got a little bit of cleanup to do tomorrow, and
they're behind the barn?
They're beside the barn.
Beside it, yeah.
Yeah, as long as we're into it, I'm gonna say, please come over and take a look at them.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the board members need to go look at those.
We had to cut one in half to get it, because we couldn't pick it. We cut it in half, and you will see what happened. And I'll leave it up to your own discretions, but you will know immediately what went wrong with that situation.
Okay.
All right?
I think everybody should take a look at that. We all have talked about this in great length, what we're doing and where we're going. We're gonna most likely replace those docks from what we've talked about, so. Okay, that's.
I just want to ask a question. I think when we had briefly talked about not having the gazebo on there, it was because of the EMS, when they ended up parking at the end to get them the people off the dock, they had to go through it. Is the gazebo that heavy where we couldn't put it down like on the end? It has to be in the middle?
It should be in the middle where it comes together, because that's where most of your weight
Yeah.
duty is.
That's what I figured, but.
As far as your bolts, I mean, I live there now, I live on the lake, and, there's issues with people parking all the time. The only way you can take care of that is actually have law enforcement come down and take care of that. You know, if there's an issue, you need to have it addressed. And there's a lot of vehicles, or a lot of boats that stay there all summer. Do I think it's right? No, not really, but I think that's a issue the board's gonna have to address.
We got the same problem down in Spain.
Okay.
Boat trailers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 11, LED light upgrades at 4 locations, annual savings of about $1,357 a year. The cost is $2,353, and there are some other incentives besides that. This is something that Jamie's been working on, and that we're gonna proceed and do the LED light upgrades. And that's at the water plants, and where is that, Jamie?
Water plants, water tower, and sewer plant.
Okay. Okay, the next one is the resolution to go to the New York State Legislature to create O&M billing changes, and that's, Mr. Sly has that
I brought extra copies in case.
paperwork. That's resolution number 1 on October 28th of 2020.
Got it? You have yours, right?
Yeah, I know. Unless you change it. No. That might be like the agenda.
Yeah.
So the memorandum reads, attached to the proposed resolution authorizing the town supervisor to approach Mr. Walczak, the town's representative to the state assembly, and Ms. Ritchie, the town's representative to the state senate, asking each of them to introduce in their respective bodies home rule legislation which would allow ad valorem taxes and or benefit assessments to be assessed for capital costs, O&M, and in each of the town's water and sewer districts going forward. Once this resolution is adopted, I would recommend that each of the representatives' offices be contacted by phone to assure that the resolution is directed to the appropriate person. If they say yes, it will be incumbent upon the town to draft the proposed legislation. Once that occurs and the legislation is introduced in each legislative body, we will have to prepare a formal request for home rule legislation, and further a formal resolution separately requesting the state assembly and the state senate to consider and pass the legislation. Mike, can you give a little brief explanation that we've been working on our ordinances, that after we had the comptroller's audits, we found out that things had been done in some of our ordinances since 1992, and some others in water ordinances since 2006, that could not be done, and that what was being done was the billing methods and the terminologies.
The town has 5 different water districts and two sewer districts. And the thing, everybody that's either gets a water bill or sewer bill or both, you look at it and you just see a number. And let's say like the water levy, for example, that includes your water use, any O&M, operation and maintenance, and what's called CAP, is paying off the original loan or any loan to install the system. And then in theory, there should be some more to help build a reserve fund or a fund balance. There's, like, again, all the various districts, each one of them has an ordinance, and these ordinances are by and large copied from other towns that have basically done the same thing we have, and so so the situation that we have run into the town of Alexandria is other towns, if they aren't aware of it, they're going to be aware of it before too long, how we go about billing. The way that when we've had several ongoing meetings with the auditors for the billing portion of how we do water and sewer, and that's pretty much resolved. Then they kind of pass it on to the comptroller's attorneys, and their attorney's office interprets how you can bill property vastly different than many portions of our ordinances, primarily being if you don't actually receive a service, like you turn your tap on and water comes out, you can't be billed. You have a vacant piece of property, you can't be billed. So in our case, we are currently, say for example, like the Redwood Water District, we have some benefit assessments that we charge a certain amount per linear footage of road for farm fields. They don't actually receive a service, so they really can't be charged. But, so what happens at the end of the day, when all these properties that don't receive an actual service can no longer be charged, now that cost has to be picked up by those people that are actually receiving a service. And the bottom line is everybody's bill's gonna go up as a result of this. What this does, there's two different things that they discuss here. One is the ad valorem, kind of a cool Latin name. It means add value, value added, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And and then the other is a benefit assessment. That would be similar to what is happening now, a charge for frontage of your property. I personally like the ad valorem one. I think it's much more democratic, and what it does in some communities do it, because, and then to have to back up a little bit, what the comptroller is saying, because our original ordinances, which we can't change, by the way, because they're linked to when we borrowed the money. If we didn't have this language in it then, we can't install it now unless we do this home rule business. But anyway, getting back to the ad valorem, what that is you can take, say you got two pieces of property right next door to each other. One's got a house on it, one does not. And the improved piece of property with the house on it, let's say it's worth a couple $100,000, and the unapproved property, the vacant piece of property is, say its assessed value is $50,000. So they would get an ad valorem tax based on the assessed value of their property. So no two pieces of property have the exact same value, so it's much more democratic. For those lower valued properties would pay less, higher valued properties would pay more. Now that would just be for the O&M and the cap. Use is use, is how much water you use and spin that meter. You would pay for how much water you actually use. But the other two categories, and then the fund reserve portion would be based on, if we go in with the ad valorem option, the assessed value of your property. I went through every single water district, took me quite a while, and I got the assessed value for 2020 for every single piece of property in each one of the districts. And then I did a mathematical what if, comparing the debt payments each one of the districts have, and then the O&M, the average O&M. I took the last 3 years and averaged them out so I get a price for that. And then how much I thought we should have for a fund balance each one. Really, the fund balance end of it is a little bit more ambiguous, because we have, say for example, the Redwood Water District has one user, and the only responsibility the town of Alexandria, or that water district has, is the master meter. So that's not really a whole lot of money. The other end of the spectrum is the Redwood Water District, which is the largest water district. Much more pipe, a lot of valves, a lot of hydrants, just a lot of everything. So they would require a higher fund reserve to address any potential problem in the future, as compared to, say, Edgewood or Carnegie Bay, or a small water district.
Okay. So,
I don't know if
that's
anybody has any
what we're
questions on what I'm talking about here.
I think
Brent, can I explain for just a moment? Can I explain some things to the public for a moment? So when the town got audited and it was discovered by the comptroller, or determined by the comptroller, that the town was billing incorrectly, we wrote a letter to the corrective action plan. We drafted a corrective action plan for the comptroller's office on how we plan to fix it. We would amend our ordinances to include the ability of the town board to establish an ad valorem tax and or benefit assessment to collect O&M charges and capital charges. The comptroller said, well, hang on a minute, you better speak with our internal attorneys at the comptroller's office so that they can talk to you about that. So we spoke with an attorney in the comptroller's office who said, well, we can't let you do that. So our point was, okay, first you told us we can't do what we're doing, and now we can't do what we're supposed to do, right? So that meant the only solution, based upon the comptroller's audit, was the only way we could collect capital and O&M, and which is lawful, is through increased rates. That would, we'd have a riot on our hands if we did that. So we spoke with the comptroller's office about being able to now amend our ordinances to include O&M charges to be, and capital costs to be part of either an ad valorem tax or a benefit assessment. And we were told if it was not in the original ordinance, you can't do it. And if you didn't do it, if it was in your original ordinance and you didn't then impose it, you can't do it. So what are we supposed to do? Well, the only thing you can do is ask for a special act of the state legislature to allow you to do it. So what this particular resolution does, when you ask for home rule legislation, and you've probably read about it, the city just did this in connection with this. Remember, they now imposed two full-time city court judges, and the city went back and got the state legislature to revoke that, take it back to 1 1/4 judges. The governor hasn't signed it yet, but the procedure is that first you have to ask your legislator and ask your state senator if they would be willing to sponsor such legislation. They'll say yes. When they say yes, then they put us in touch with, there's actually an office in the state senate where the lawyers help you draft the new legislation, which is helpful. We'll draft the legislation, and then we have to specifically ask, again, the senator and the state assembly person to please introduce the legislation. And we have to then ask the legislature to pass it. It's all a formality. It's called the home rule legislation. They can adopt something just for the town of Alexandria, just as they adopt something just for the city of Watertown to reduce the number of judges. So we have to follow their procedure, but the goal is, at the end of the day, to be able to amend, actually, we're going to rewrite our ordinances because they're old, and allow for either the imposition of ad valorem or benefit assessment. And we're also going to ask for the opportunity, we're going to ask in our legislation that the town board at any time could impose either, rather than we didn't do it right up front. So we're going to try to cover all our bases if we can. And then we can finally sit down and figure out what's the best way to go about it. So I don't mean to take a lot of time with it, but I felt the public should understand why we're going about this way, because they told us we can't do one thing. When we went to fix it, they said you can't do that either, and our hands are tied. So we've got to get a special act that will let us do it. Now, what's coming down the road, and what Mike alluded to, was that from everything that we know, the town of Alexandria did nothing wrong back in the 80s and the early 90s when it adopted its ordinances. It did what most of these were, there were law firms that kind of specialized in setting these things up, and the engineers that also worked on these things. And I think we're going to find that almost all the towns in the North Country have the same legislation we do. So one at a time, they'll be going to each of those towns and auditing, and they're all going to be asking for special legislation too. Does it make any sense? I don't understand why the state comptroller takes that position. I read the statute, it doesn't say that you have to do it right then, it doesn't say when you have to adopt legislation. This is just them interpreting the law that they wrote, saying, well, this is what it means. You can't read it and discern that just from reading it. But it's their game, their rules, we play by their rules, and we'll fix it. Hopefully be on a course where we can fix all 5 of our water districts, both of our sewer districts, make them lawful, so the next time we get audited, we don't get chewed on. And also, probably, I think we're going to be setting a new standard for the North Country on how we go about doing these, because apparently everybody's been doing it wrong for years. It just happened to be that Alexandria got audited first, and that's the truth. So, hang on, it's going to be a wild ride for the next few months, but hopefully we can...
I've spoken to other towns, and Dank, who does a whole lot of towns, and they're all watching what we're doing.
Yeah, but they are, yeah. Well, hopefully we can get the support of those towns, and, we'll support them also. It seems to me that while the legislature's at it, they can fix it for everybody. That will be the test case. But I think it'll work. This home rule legislation, typically, my understanding is, the city's legislation passed all but two votes in the assembly, and it was unanimous in the Senate. Whether the governor will sign it's another question. Because the Office of Court Administration has its own vibe on these things. But, for this, I can't imagine the comptroller's office is going to object. As long as there's legislation, they don't care. So we'll go get the legislation and try to get on the right course. I think everybody will find that it would be much fairer, much easier to establish rates, much easier to get your capital and O&M costs paid up so that we can have fund balances and not have to worry about repairs, and who's gonna pay for what. I think we'll be on a much better footing going forward. But that's the purpose. I'm sorry it takes so long, but I thought it needed to be.
Okay, so I need a resolution requesting that the town's representatives to the state assembly and the state senate introduce legislation allowing the town of Alexandria to recover capital and O&M costs of the town's water and sewer districts through the imposition of ad valorem taxes and or benefit assessments.
That's the resolution for you, that's right.
Yeah, I'll definitely make that resolution.
That resolution is made by Mike. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Sandy. Is this a roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Town Supervisor Brent Sweet,
Yes.
Deputy Supervisor Ron Thompson is absent. Board Member John Stein,
Yes.
Board Member Mike Mayotte,
Yes.
Board Member Sandy Pluto.
Yes.
So we'll get certified copies of that from the clerk, and we'll write to each, Mr. Walzick and, Ms. Ritchie, and ask them to sponsor.
That was number 12. Number 13 is that in our corrective action plans that we sent to the comptroller after our audits, I believe we put the dates in there of October. As Sandy had said and Mike had said, they've been meeting almost every Wednesday of the month trying to figure the situation out, and now we've got a whole new road to go down with the legislative action that we're asking for. So we just need a motion to send the comptroller's office in Syracuse a letter telling them where we're at and where we're going, and that we're not gonna have our problem taken care of by October until we get this passed. So I need a motion to do that. Motion by Mike, second by John. Any discussion?
Well,
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I mean, this, largely, the roadblock we've run into is them.
Right.
Yep. Okay, number 14, request for outside user agreements on a couple parcels. We've got a bunch of work and decisions to make on that. Bob?
Well, our sewer ordinance, this is a sewer use, as I understand it. Our sewer ordinance for Redwood does not allow outside user agreements, so we're gonna have to amend the ordinance to allow it and come up with some standards for what will require, engineering, and the applicants gonna have to pay for their own installation, et cetera, things like that. Then once the ordinance is amended, then we can go ahead and enter into agreements with people.
So we'll need you
Right, the board's gonna have to determine what sort of standards they want for outside users. I mean, there are two options. You either welcome them into the sewer district, right, and expand the boundaries of your district, or you allow outside users. Well, right now, if you expand the size of your district and it includes persons who aren't gonna hook up, we're back into more situations of persons who ought to be billed, at least the benefit assessment of having sewer available that they aren't using, and it just becomes, we're compounding our own problems. So I think we need to think about a good amendment to the ordinance talking about allowing outside users.
Okay.
Also, we have the same situation in water districts.
I'm sure we do.
So it would seem to me that the language is probably pretty much the same.
I'm hopeful that we get this through the state legislature and we have an organized approach to amending, to rewriting each of our water ordinances and rewriting each of our sewer ordinances, so we can be off to a fresh start and maybe solve some of the problems that we've had for years.
Because currently, I knew offhand how many total, but we have several, more than I believe possible. Water district, not the sewer district, the actual water users in various water districts that are not actually currently in the water district. So we literally have outside users, but they're being treated like they were in the district, but they are not.
And they probably aren't paying any more for water than anybody else.
No, they're paying exactly the same.
Right, so they haven't paid for the capital costs of putting in the water lines, they haven't paid for any of that.
No, they
They're
are.
paying for water.
They're paying the cap and water rate, everything, as if they were in the district, but they just are not.
More things that
Yeah,
we found that are not right. Okay, number 15 is budget transfers, got 4 of them. We have debit, in the cemeteries, contractual expenses, $100, and credit, cemeteries, personal services, $100. And then a debit, machinery, equipment, 26 cents, and credit, machinery, contractual expenses, 26 cents. Uniforms, we need to debit $200, credit, New York State retirement, $200. Route 12 water equipment, debit $50, and credit, transmission and distribution contractual expenses, $50. I need a motion.
I make a motion.
Motion by Sandy,
I'll second that.
second by John. Any discussion? Let me read the explanations. To cover expenses within the fund, to cover, all these are to cover expenses within the fund, and we're doing something that we learned a year ago, that we used to wait till the end of the year to do an unbelievably long list of transfers, and now we're doing them every month. So our books are more accurate. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Water Committee, we, created a water committee. We've been looking for volunteers. We have some volunteers. We're looking for some more volunteers. Sandy, you were involved in this. Where are we going with this? We talked about, I guess we're gonna write a letter and try to schedule a meeting. I think we've been saying that for a couple months, but we didn't have too many people on this committee.
Yeah.
And we just have to go with it because we have to get going. And that's part of the discussion that Sandy and Mike and Jamie and everybody are having when they meet every Wednesday, is they're discussing water-related issues and problems. So, and we'd like to get the committee involved in that process a little bit. So we've got, the committee is gonna be users, customers in each one of the water districts, so that they know what's going on and can voice their opinions and be transparent about what needs to be changed and what changes we're making. So, Highway Superintendent report, Mike?
Well, all the surface treating's done for the season. All the roads that we started were all surface treated and done. We're starting to tear the trucks down, getting them all ready for the winter. The new truck is in, it's all completely hooked up. Somebody wants to come and look at it, feel free. The barn is not locked up to the public. There is a sign up there that says, due to the COVID thing, please call this number or beat on the door, you will be allowed to come in the barn. Put that rumor to rest. The docks are done, they're out. Just a little bit of cleanup tomorrow. There's one section, the big one, that got cut up, but that's, please come and look at it. You guys will be really surprised at what happened, or why.
How many days did it take you to do the docks?
I think they did it in 2 days.
2 days?
Yep, I donated my boat, gas, and whatever to get it done, and it didn't cost to hire anybody else to do it, so.
Were there any boats at the dock?
There was not. Nope. So,
Was there foam in the middle of the things when you cut them open?
I'll let you guys look at it. There's a little foam there. Come and look at it. Make your own, deductions on everything, okay, please?
Has the guy who phoned him, has he been over?
Now, we have his bags. I'll contact him tomorrow, Scott, and just,
Okay.
and we'll leave it at that. Come on down and look at it, okay?
Is that it?
We'll talk. No, I don't think so. Just a second. Let me put these on. I can't see.
Welcome to the crowd.
Right. I've contacted 4 people, actually 4 contractors that do the grates. And this has been going on for a year, the grates at the barn. Somebody's gonna get hurt, we're gonna start blowing tires. They're all, even when Dean was there, they're really bad. And Brett knows this. I've been talking to him about it. I've contacted 4 contractors. So far, in the last, I'm gonna say almost a year, I've got 2 people that have come back with prices. Grindstone Fabrications and, what's the one in Watertown? Metalman. And Metalman is a real reasonable price. I'd like to have you guys just say, okay, fix them, because somebody's gonna get hurt, and somebody's gonna blow tires. It's $1,900, I only want 12 of them right now, and, cause Dave had replaced some years ago, and they're still not terrible. They're hot dipped, and they're actually 1 inch, they're thicker, and they got sides on them, so they won't bend. I'd like to go ahead and get it done, so we can,
Hadn't we voted on, or at least, I remember, actually, I remember it, and it's in the.
We've talked about
It's been talked about.
Yes.
Do you need a motion for us to do it? 'Cause I
I'm
think
just
you
being-
can, because I know we said,
yeah.
even when I went down, we walked through the first time,
Yep,
they need to be done.
I don't believe I need a motion for it, but
No.
I think I wanted to bring it to you guys because
Yeah.
I don't want somebody to say down the road, you don't work with us. You know what I'm saying? So, that's that. And I called 3 contractors about the generator. And Brent's aware of this, we've talked, it has to be unhooked by the company, it's still hot out there. And, for gas, just wait for them to come in and hook it.
They haven't come?
Huh?
They haven't come?
I have no idea. Did they contact you yet?
You and I talked to them that day.
Yep.
They were sending service people out to unhook it.
I'll check it tomorrow, and if it's there, we'll move it.
But we also gave them each of our phone numbers to call us,
Yeah,
and
they didn't.
they haven't called me.
No. So we've gotten 1 price back so far, it's from Mr. Campbell here, and I'll tell you what, guys, I really like it, because once a year they'll service it, they'll come make sure it's working, if there's problems, call them, they fix it. We'll wait for the other tools for a period of time, and after that, I'm gonna ask, let's proceed.
Okay.
And the lights, we've got all our lights up, except for 3 outside lights, and Chris is working on that. And as soon as they're done, Rob will send his man over and we'll get some money back.
I've got some people in Redwood that have contacted me that wanna put up Christmas lights in Redwood. I haven't heard from them exactly what they wanna do, if they wanna do it on telephone poles or whatever they wanna do it, but I'll find out more about that and be in touch with you.
You have to, I believe you gotta get a hold of National Grid on some of that stuff. We've done some things that been brought to my attention, you're not supposed to do
Yep.
that, and they
Yep.
turn their head. So,
Okay.
yeah, just have them get a hold of National Grid if it's telephone poles, otherwise, we'll help anybody do that, you know that.
Okay.
I guess that's it, and I'm gonna recuse myself from the meeting because I have prior engagements, and you guys have a great night.
Okay. Zoning report?
1,900 altogether, for the grades.
What's that?
Okay, it was 1,900 for all 12 grades, it wasn't. Thank you.
Zoning report, the only thing that Norris had was that refund that he wanted, for that customer, so that's taken care of that. Jamie, do you have a water report?
Yeah, so, doing my daily and monthly testing, Redwood had his tank inspected, which I'm gonna let Rob explain to you what's going on there. Been doing, turn off at seasonal residents, our mowing is finished, the mower's been cleaned up, put away. Been working with Jay at the sewer plant, been helping at the transfer site when Byron needs a hand. Been working at the rink with Jerry whenever he needs a hand. Me and Jay have, installed the cages at the town office for the courts. And I think starting tomorrow, we're gonna get the plows and the sand around the trucks and get ready for winter.
I'm sorry, what? Is he done?
None of us wanted to hear that, he was talking dirty language.
Winter. Ready for winter.
Okay, for, the sewer report, Jay,
Wait a minute, were you gonna talk about something?
Well, you got the inspection report back for the water tower at Redwood. And, so the report basically pointed out that there's some damage to the coating on the inside of the tank. particularly at the ice line. Okay, so you get a big cake of ice in there every winter, and it floats up and down. Jamie reduces the level of the tank, right? So, so you don't have a problem with the ice damaging the tank itself. But it's very common that these painted steel tanks, obviously, you're gonna have to do some maintenance probably on the interior coating of that tank. Whether it needs to be completely recoated or touched up, I'm not sure if they made a recommendation, Jamie, of that.
He
didn't elaborate on that, so just so you know, down the road, there's gonna be a maintenance expense to, there's also a few spots on the outside that I've noticed that should probably be touched up, when that other work is being done, so.
How often do they inspect the tank?
Well, you're supposed to inspect it every 5 years, but this is the first inspection I think you've had, right, since the tank put online? 2007, so it's been 13 years. Typically, you don't repaint a new tank for about 15 years anyway, you know, so I think the life of the original coating it's acceptable, but it's nearing the end of its useful life. So you're gonna have to do something with it in the next couple of years, probably.
So I'm guessing that obviously you can't have water in the tank.
Right.
These are assumptions, so.
No, you're right.
I'm just trying to think about when is the best time to do something like this, because you're gonna have temperature that I'm assuming would be a factor.
Right.
You obviously can't paint inside when you got water in the tank
Right.
that customers are gonna be using, so when is water usage the lowest?
It's really not,
Do they put
water
tarps
usage.
in, like, how do you?
Yeah, so what you'll probably do is, empty the tank. As you say, the recoating has to be done in the summer, you know, or when temperature cure time. Although painting products have gotten better, you know, they cure at lower temperatures now than they did 20 years ago. There's better painting products out there. But you still have to empty the tank, warm, dry weather, and what'll happen is you'll valve the tank off, you just shut it off, and you'll run the pumps on Outer Church Street, you know, right at the village line. You'll probably run those 24 hours a day to supply pressure while the tank's empty. That's typically the way it's done. So, it's a bit of a, you know, an operational issue, but it can be done.
Typically, how long does this last?
So like, not next year, but the year after, we really should budget for that.
Say that again?
How long would it take them to paint this, typically? I mean, how long would the rubber have to be?
You know, a week or two, it depends on the extent. If it's just a touch-up job, you could pull it down, you could do spot prep, okay, so they'll go in there and they'll spot sandblast, or they'll use a power tool, or air grinder, or electric grinders to get rid of the rust, and then they'll just touch it up. You know, that might be as short as a week. If it's more extensive than that, you know, the tank could be offline for a few weeks. I don't think the outside has degraded to the level that you're gonna have, you gotta sandblast the whole tank and do that. I think that could probably be spot repaired for now. At some point, you're gonna have to recoat it, you know. It's kind of like a roadway, right? A road, you can patch it for so long, and then eventually you're gonna have to repave. The tank's kind of the same way as the coating, so. But it's gonna come just at some point. So I'll look at the report in more detail, maybe talk to the inspection agency, and we'll have to get an idea. So the disadvantage too is they inspected it with the tank full, so they dove on it. So sometimes what you see underwater isn't the same as you see when it's drained. You can't go and pick it off with your finger quite so easy when it's full of water, right? Or get a sense of how much adhesion there is of the paint to the steel, you know. That's a little difficult to tell when the tank's full and when you're in school gear. So we may want to pull the tank down and do a quick visual of it this summer and just look at it dry. But let me talk to Jamie and the inspector a little more. Make a recommendation.
Just curious, Rob, because of reserve funds and fund balances and the budgeting that we're doing, what kind of cost to repaint the whole inside?
I wouldn't even wanna guess right now.
I was gonna say, is there a company around here that does that?
There are companies around,
Can we get an estimate, so we know what we're looking at in the next year?
you know, Churchill and Clayton used to be one of the big tank and bridge painters. I think Joe, I think his son still, does that. So that's one local, very local company that does it. There's other companies, Ithaca, Binghamton, Long Island, you know, they're around.
To just get
I just wonder, are we talking $50,000, $100,000?
Yeah, again, I wanna.
$5,000.
Huh?
$5,000, Sandy likes $5,000.
Come look at it for that.
Yeah, so, but, you know, let's talk to gather some more information.
Just asking, because we need to think about this for our reserve funds that we're working within our budget right now. We need to start putting money aside to pay for this.
It's gonna be more than $5,000, I can almost guarantee you that. There is a bit of a problem, and I don't know if Bob can comment on this. It's not really a problem, but something you should be aware of. Since tank painting is considered O&M, I don't think you can borrow for very long.
Short term. Yeah.
So your bonding, bond counsel, you can't go out 15 years for a recoating job that could cost you $150,000 to recoat that tank. So that is, I've been involved with municipalities that have run into that problem before, and say, okay, you need to do a $150,000 painting job, and you can't finance it for 10 or 15 years. You have to do it with, you know, maybe you can do a revenue anticipation note and do it for 5. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to talk to bond counsel.
Yeah.
Ad valorem. Ad valorem, they'll solve that.
So it's coming, it's gonna, yeah. No, these tank repainting jobs aren't inexpensive.
I was gonna say, I know the village did the one down here, Churchill, and it was just short of $100,000.
Yeah. But
You wait more it costs too, right?
But I do, if you keep up with the maintenance, okay, it could save you down the road doing a complete, sandblast paint.
Mhm. That's why I'm thinking, we wanna have him look at it soon.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if it's a 3-week project, weeks in upstate New York, there's
Yeah,
not a lot of
summers are
them.
short, right.
So, I mean, he might be, or whoever might be booked 2 years out.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Rob. Jay Gaskins Sewer Report. Since the last meeting, Jamie and I have changed 7 sewer pumps in Redwood, 3 of which were reinstalls in vacant houses that are now going to be occupied. We have removed, shut down the seasonal units for the year. I've ordered and received 5 new grinder pumps with whips for stock and to replace failing pumps. I've been sorting through a pile of failed pumps and stripping them down for scrap and parts, also removing them from inventory. Most are just not repairable. The ones that look good, I'm saving for parts and repair. I've prepared a few old ones to be reused. I have a few more good candidates to go. I've been doing fiberglass work to sewer pots and sewer pot covers, trying to build an inventory. We've had a few get damaged by cars. Jamie and I finished the mowing for the year. I serviced the mowers and put them away in the trailer. I've been helping Jamie with the water department as needed. Jamie and I installed the cage in the records room for the court clerks. Next, we'll be installing the sander and the plow and the DPW 1-ton for snow removal. Today, I spoke with Paula Jacobs from DEC. Due to COVID epidemic living in wastewater, we discussed leaving the UV lights on and the effluent stream coming out of the plant being discharged into Mud Lake. The UV lights will kill the virus as it leaves. Not knowing if it's in the population of Redwood, I think it's better to leave the lights on for the near future. It will only cost the town the electricity to run the lights. Normally we'd turn them off at the end of October. Paul Jacobs said it's up to the town if it's to be left on. I will be leaving them on unless the board decides not to. We have been helping out the ice rink and will continue as needed. That's Jay's report. I think it makes sense. Does everybody agree to leave the UV lights on? It's just a little bit of electricity and...
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah. So, next item 21, I've had this on here for a couple months. I resent board members, the, RFPs, or actually the proposals, I should say, for a townwide audit. We have it in the budget. I've been through them pretty thoroughly. I'd like to have you guys and girls go through them. I like the request that we have, or the proposal we have from Bonadeo. So just to, so you know that, there's one other, third one, asked for two others, we haven't got them. I have one other company now that Mike Lasan has notified me of that I can try to see if they'll give us a proposal. Budget work session was at 10:27, we did the notification, as we're required to do. Really good news that we got, was that the WIA grant, which is $667,000, which is for the Route 12 sewer expansion number 2 project, was very close to being to the point of going out to bid. That grant got pulled from us, or got put on hold in the summer, 3 months ago. And we were told it was a political issue and just hold on. So we didn't do anything about it. I talked to Mark Walczyk about it a couple of times. He said the same thing. Hold on, we're working on it. I think it was yesterday, Rob, that we got the letter.
We got an email yesterday.
And they're giving us the money back. So now we're moving forward. This thing is, we had a conference call today with all the agencies involved, or most of the agencies involved, that they said that everything looks good and we can proceed. So what's the time schedule and where are we at, Rob?
Well, the design, we're just waiting for final approval from the DEC of our plans and specs. And then the easements, we'll have to get easements from everybody. I believe Joe's office is working on those, Joe Russell's office, right? I'm not sure how those are coming back yet, but, so the milestones are get final approval from DEC, which I think we'll get within the next week or two. And then we get easements, which could take, you know, a month or more, or two, to chase people down, make sure they sign. We get approval from the rural development and the other funding agency. Okay, we're getting over $1 million from them. So typically they approve right after the DEC approves. And then we can go out to bid, probably sometime in the late winter, early spring, hopefully. The other piece is, EFC is providing you basically construction financing, or interim financing at 0%. So, you spent a couple $100,000 on planning and design and environmental things.
280. Which
you've been carrying, and, you know, for many years, actually, because this project started, you know, 7 or 8 years ago, I think. As soon as the short-term financing is approved, which they told us today will probably be after the first of the year sometime, then that money can come back into the general fund, because Brent said that was a question you had at your budget, your budget level meeting the other day. So that'll get reimbursed, and then that becomes a project cost.
It's probably a $288,000 due to General A.
Right.
On our financial statement that we need to do something about. So we're looking at 3 to 4 months.
And so that'll straighten that out.
I'm just laughing because he keeps looking at me because I was the one that was going crazy on it.
Yeah. So move forward. But it'll move forward at the speed of government, which isn't always quickly, because there's a lot of agencies involved still. There's DOTs involved, the DEC's involved, comptroller's offices involved, so but the good news is it's moving forward.
Okay, and I think, Rob, you've answered question number 24 as far as the financing and what we're gonna do. We go with that and hopefully be 3 or 4 months out before we get the reimbursement. Number 25 is the letter to comptroller, which I talked about in number 13, that we're just gonna send a letter telling them where we're at with it, that we're gonna be looking at, the home rule situation.
Is Bob drawing that up?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna draw that up, I'm gonna draw up the letter to, Senator Ritchie and Mr. Walzer.
Okay. That's 25. I just had one last thing that, this is something that we talked with, I talked with, Mr. Sly about, Attorney Sly about, in relation to the open meetings law that Sandy talked about in the beginning of the meeting, and the New York State open meetings law. Meetings of a committee or subcommittee that consists solely of board members that discuss or conduct public business are subject to the open meetings law. That means they have to be advertised and properly and so on. In contrast, meetings of the board advisory committees that do not exist exclusively of board members are purely advisory in nature, make recommendations to the board, and do not perform governmental functions are not subject to the open meetings law. So basically what we're saying is the meeting that was yesterday, when there was other people here that were advising us, and the meeting that was today, that there was other people, it was not exclusively the board at all, they're not subject to the open meetings law. And that's just that's a law from New York State that I just wanted to read. We've got it posted in a couple locations for anybody that's interested. And the last thing is, I believe we have to go to executive session for pending litigation.
Yes.
So we need a motion?
And collective bargaining, and the employment history of a particular person.
Need a motion? Motion by John, second? Second by Sandy. Any discussion? We'll go to executive session. Thank you.
Turn off the,
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Thank you, Jesse.